Some players talk trash. Others let their game do the talking. Larry Bird? He did both, and then made sure you never forgot it. From the small town of French Lick, Indiana, Bird carried the work ethic of a farm kid and the competitive fire of a street fighter. Every elbow, every smirk, every offhand insult. He filed away in a mental vault. And when the time came, he'd open it with surgical precision, delivering revenge so ruthless and perfectly timed it felt like destiny. He didn't just beat you on the scoreboard. He beat you in pride, ego, and willpower.
The man, listen, you couldn't give him an inch or he would just shoot it right in your face. He was dominant at both ends of the court. And so Larry Bird made me a better player, and I think I made him a better player. And together, we made the NBA better.
Today, we're reliving 5 of those moments. 5 games where Larry Legend turned a slight into a masterpiece and left his opponents humbled, haunted, and in some cases, embarrassed for life. This is the kind of story we live for here at Amazing Hoops. The rivalries, the legends, the moments that make basketball more than just a game. So if you love the sport, if you crave the drama, the history, and the greatness, hit subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and join us courtside. Because today, we're diving into 5 times Larry Legend turned a slight into a masterpiece. Larry Bird never looked like the NBA's executioner. There were no bulging Karl Malone biceps, no aerial artistry like Michael Jordan, no highlight reel athleticism to make crowds gasp. Just a 6'9" kid from French Lick, Indiana, with a farmer's gait, a deadpan stare, and a jump shot that looked almost too simple to be deadly. But beneath that plain exterior was a competitor wired for war. Bird summed it up best. I wasn't the most gifted athlete, but I had the most drive. People mistook his lack of flash for softness. They saw the stoic face, the slow jog, and figured they could get away with a shove, a stare down, maybe even a few choice words. In the bruising NBA of the 1982nd, an era of flying elbows, hard fouls, and trash talk that bordered on psychological warfare, that was a fatal miscalculation. The unwritten rule in that league was simple. If someone tested you, you answered back harder. And Larry Bird didn't just answer. He was punished. Dee Brown, who joined the Celtics late in Bird's career, remembered.
But he was still that dude. He would talk mess all the time. I mean, he was nonstop.
The thing about Bird was that he played every game with an invisible ledger. Every insult, every smirk, every opponent who dared to question his toughness or skill, it all got logged. And unlike most players, Bird didn't seek instant retaliation. He waited. He picked his moment. And when the opportunity came, he made sure the payback was public, undeniable, and humiliating for the other guy. Opponents learned the hard way. Isiah Thomas once said, "Larry was the coldest dude ever on the court. If you disrespected him, he wasn't just trying to beat you, he was trying to embarrass you." Magic Johnson echoed that sentiment. Larry Bird is the most motivated player I've ever seen. You give him a reason, and you'll regret it. Isiah Thomas, who faced Bird in countless battles, recalled one moment as,
"This is probably one of the most incredible plays probably I've ever witnessed. From an athletic standpoint, 2 people being in sync, and just Bird just playing every second. And that's what the Celtics taught us.
I'm not believing that. Oh, man.
Not to play 47 and a half minutes, but to play a full 48.
Dee Brown saw the same fire.
He would terrorize guys in practices. Like terrorize guys in practices. Like
Larry would?
Yeah, like terrorize, like to the point, and to the point where, like, Larry, you got to sit out right now because this dude ain't gonna be the same tomorrow.
That's what makes the 5 stories you're about to hear so fascinating. Each one started the same way. Someone poked the quiet assassin. Maybe it was a Christmas Day jab from Chuck Person about going bird hunting. Maybe it was Dražen Petrović getting in his face after torching Boston for 39 points. Maybe it was Bill Laimbeer throwing an elbow to the chin. Or Kevin McHale breaking Bird's scoring record while torching Kent Benson, prompting Larry to reclaim it a week later with a 60-point masterpiece. Or Doug Collins thinking a player like Ben Poquette could guard him. In every case, the spark was the same. A slight, real or perceived. But the explosion that followed was pure Bird. He didn't just match your energy, he turned it into a clinic. And in the 1982nd, with the league's toughest defenders breathing down his neck, that meant he'd drop 40, 50, even 60 points. sometimes telling you exactly how he'd score before he did it. So the question is, why did so many keep poking him? Was it arrogance? Ignorance? Or maybe, just maybe, it was because they didn't believe the legend until they saw it firsthand. What they all found out was that Larry Bird never forgot, and when he came for you, there were no second chances. It's the 5th of April, 1991, Boston Garden. Game 5 of the Eastern Conference first round. Celtics versus Pacers. The winner advances, loser goes home. The series is tied 2-2. And for Larry Bird, the stakes are more than just another playoff win. They're personal. By this point in his career, Bird's back was in shambles. Years of punishing minutes, hard falls, and carrying the Celtics on his shoulders had left him with degenerative disc issues so severe that his teammates admitted they sometimes had to help him put on his socks and jersey before games. Most players in that much pain would have called it quits. But Bird? He wasn't built for sitting out. From the opening tip, the Garden crowd could see he was moving stiffly, conserving energy, picking his spots. Then, midway through the first half, disaster struck. Diving for a loose ball, a pure hustle play, Bird landed face first on the iconic parquet floor. The sound echoed, and the Garden collectively gasped. When he rose, there was blood on his cheek. The medical report was grim. A fractured right cheekbone, possible concussion, blurred vision. The Celtics team doctors urged him to stay out, warning that another blow to the head could be dangerous. While Boston's medical staff worked in the back, the game rolled on. On the Pacers bench sat Chuck Person, the rifleman, a man who had a history of trading verbal jabs with Bird. Earlier in the season, he had told reporters he was going bird hunting before a Christmas Day matchup, only for Larry to drain a three in front of him and say, "Merry Christmas," before it even hit the net. The rivalry had history, and in Bird's mind, unfinished business. On this night, with him in the locker room, Person looked relaxed. Too relaxed. Smirking. Acting as if the Celtics' run was over and Indiana's ticket to the next round was punched. That image burned into Bird's mind. With 6 minutes left in the third quarter, the tunnel darkened. The crowd began to stir. Then, like a scene from a sports movie, the silhouette of number 33 emerged. The Garden erupted into a deafening roar, the kind that shakes the rafters. The PA announcer barely got his name out before the sound swallowed it whole. Concussion or not, Bird had decided the fight wasn't finished.
It was a 5-game series, and on Sunday afternoon, the Celtics are in trouble. Larry winds up going for it, bangs his head on the floor.
I know.
Bang, boom, has to leave the game. They're trailing. It looks like the ship's going to sink, and we're going to go home in the first round. And Larry, and the video's out there, folks. They show the cameras are on Larry emerging from the locker room, coming down the corridor. The cavalry is arriving, folks.
The angels are singing.
Right, absolutely. The cavalry's arriving. The angels are singing the hosannas. The crowd sees him. They go berserk.
They go crazy.
He comes in and he does it. He does the job. He becomes Larry Bird again, and they win the game. And after the game, Bob Hill, who had replaced who got fired? Somebody got fired in the beginning of the season by Indiana. He was the coach, and he said, "I told my guys he's coming back, and when he does, be ready." He did. I told my guys he's coming back, and damn if he didn't.
From the moment he re-entered, the energy shifted. Bird played with calculated fury, posting up, hitting mid-range jumpers, threading passes through impossible angles. He finished with 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists, igniting the Celtics to a 124-121 victory that buried the Pacers' season. Even Chuck Person could only shake his head afterward, calling the comeback epic. In post-game interviews, legendary broadcaster Johnny Most summed it up best on the call. Larry Bird has just walked back into this building like a conquering general returning from war. Moments like this are why teammates and rivals alike revered and feared Larry Bird. He wasn't just playing through pain. He was redefining what toughness looked like in the NBA. The 15th of March, 1992. Hartford Civic Center. Dražen Petrović, the pride of Croatia, already carving out his reputation as one of the NBA's most efficient and fearless scorers, was having the kind of night shooters dream about. Wearing New Jersey Nets blue, He torched the Boston Celtics with surgical precision. 39 points, perfect from beyond the arc, and a rhythm so pure it looked like he was playing in an empty gym. The Celtics defense couldn't slow him. Larry Bird, sidelined much of that year with lingering back issues, watched it unfold. He didn't complain. He didn't bark at the refs. He just filed it away in that mental vault of his, the one where he stored every slight, every humiliation, every reason to come back swinging. The thing about Bird was that he didn't need to tell you he was coming for you. He let the calendar do the talking. And just a few weeks later, the rematch arrived. The Nets walked into the Boston Garden, and the pregame chatter was thick. Commentators replayed Petrovic's 39-point explosion on loop, reminding viewers and Bird of just how unstoppable the Croatian guard had been last time. The footage was salt in the wound.
The question is, who's going to guard Dražen Petrović? Last time out against the Celtics, a career-high 39 points. He certainly is a big factor.
And the way he was shooting in the Celtic game up there in Hartford, no one could guard him.
An amazing night for Dražen Petrović.
About 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. He hit a three-pointer, and as he was backtracking, he got into Larry Bird's face and was talking some good trash. Now, Bird's not someone that you normally want to taunt, but
Dražen really lit it up in that last meeting in Hartford with 39 points.
Early in the first quarter, Petrović buried a three and, in a moment that sealed his fate, stepped toward Bird with a flash of bravado. Some light trash talk, a look that said, "It's happening again." That was the wrong move. Bird didn't flinch. No smirk, no comeback line at least. Not the verbal kind. It was the same mindset as former teammate someone once described from a game years earlier.
There was a play, and Casey Jones was trying to draw up a play. And he was trying to think about something like that, and Larry looks over at him and takes his hand and wipes off the whiteboard and said, "Hey man, fuck this. Give me the ball and let you motherfuckers get out the way."
From that moment on, Bird's game turned into a surgical dismantling of Petrovic's. He didn't just guard him, he shadowed him. He cut off passing lanes, denied him space to get his feet set, and made every catch an exercise in discomfort. On offense, Bird didn't rush. He dissected. He posted up, hit mid-range fadeaways, whipped no-look passes to cutters. By the time the final buzzer sounded, Bird had 25 points, 9 assists, and 9 rebounds, a stat line that showed total control of the game's flow. Petrović, just 12 points. For a player who had looked untouchable weeks earlier, it was as if Bird had erased him from the court. Larry was like that. Bird's former teammate once said, "You light him up and he's going to find a way to return the favor, and he's going to make sure you feel it." The Celtics didn't just win the rematch. They made it clear that Hartford had been an anomaly, not a prophecy. Bird's performance was quiet revenge, not the loud, chest-beating kind, but the kind that leaves you staring at the box score wondering how it all slipped away. Was it personal? Maybe. Was it deliberate? Absolutely. For Bird, nights like this weren't about evening the score. They were about sending a message. And Petrović, for all his brilliance, learned that when you get the better of Larry Bird, you don't just get a rematch. You get a reckoning. Boston Garden. Eastern Conference Semifinals. Game 2. The Celtics and Pistons were already building a reputation for mutual hatred. A rivalry that would later explode into full-blown war by the end of the decade. At the center of Detroit's identity was Bill Laimbeer, the self-proclaimed enforcer of the bad boys. He wasn't just a big body. He was a master agitator. His game was part basketball, part psychological warfare. And on this night, he decided to send Larry Bird a message.
Dropping in and cutting off the middle to Poquette. Laimbeer, got to be offensive foul, it is. He got Bird with the left elbow as he took the baseline on him. 3 on Laimbeer.
Early in the first quarter, as Bird made a routine cut through the lane, Laimbeer delivered an elbow straight to his chin. The blow split Bird's skin and sent him staggering. No ejection, no flagrant. This was the NBA in the 82nd, where you were expected to shake it off. The crowd at the Garden erupted in boos, but Bird didn't react with theatrics. He simply touched his chin, glanced at Laimbeer, and jogged back on defense. That glance, though, was the warning. Larry wasn't the kind of guy you wanted to wake up. Kevin McHale later said, "If you hit him like that, you better be ready for what comes next." From that moment, Bird's approach shifted. He stopped easing into the offense and began attacking on every possession. Posting up on the left block, he'd spin baseline for a soft bank shot. catching the ball at the elbow, he'd rise over Laimbeer's outstretched arms for a silky jumper. If Detroit doubled, he found cutters for easy buckets. If they didn't, he made them pay himself. By halftime, Bird had his rhythm. By the second half, he was in full takeover mode. 31 of his 42 points came after the break. He wasn't just scoring. He was controlling the tempo, crashing the boards, and turning every possession into a statement. It wasn't loud, chest-thumping revenge. It was cold, methodical dismantling, the kind that leaves no doubt about who owns the night.
Bird really hits the deck as he collided with the pick. The others know they're not involved. Bird the rebound. What a game he's having. Just a spectacular performance by Larry Bird tonight.
Boston fed off his energy. Every made shot brought the Garden crowd to its feet, and every miss by Laimbeer was met with deafening cheers. Legendary broadcaster Johnny Most captured the mood perfectly. That's the wrong man to try and intimidate. Bird is chewing them up. The Celtics closed out the game with authority, seizing a 2-0 series lead on their way to winning in 6. But for Bird, the win was just one layer of satisfaction. The deeper victory was personal, turning Laimbeer's attempt to rattle him into one of his most dominant playoff performances. When reporters asked him afterward about the hit, Bird's reply was classic understatement. He got me early, but I got him later. It was a simple truth. Laimbeer had drawn first blood, but Bird had landed the decisive blows. It wasn't the last time these two would clash, but this night became another chapter in one of the NBA's most personal and bitter rivalries, and it proved a rule that applied to every era of basketball. You could play physical with Larry Bird, but if you crossed the line, he wouldn't just beat you, he'd make you wish you'd never tried. Some rivalries are born in playoff battles. Others begin long before the NBA lights ever shine, quiet grudges that simmer for years before they finally boil over. Larry Bird's with Kent Benson belonged to the latter. The year was 1974. Bird was a highly touted freshman at Indiana University, sharing a locker room with Benson, the team's established star and future #1 NBA draft pick. Benson, a dominant 6'20" center, often singled Bird out during practices. Whether it was rookie hazing or ego, the result was the same. The quiet kid from French Lick felt the sting. Bird didn't last long at IU. After just 24 days on campus, overwhelmed by the size of the school and tired of the treatment, he walked away, eventually resurfacing at Indiana State. But the grudge against Benson, that stayed. Fast forward to the 3rd of March, 1985. Boston Garden. Celtics versus Pistons. Kent Benson was now wearing Detroit colors, still a big body in the paint, but far removed from his All-American days. Kevin McHale, Bird's front court partner, started the game hot and then caught fire. Possession after possession, Benson found himself on the wrong end of McHale's endless post moves, jump hooks, up and unders, baseline fades. Bird, recognizing the mismatch, made sure McHale got the ball every time. Larry kept feeding me. McHale recalled years later. I'd look over and he'd just be grinning like he was enjoying a private joke. That joke was Benson's misery. McHale poured in 56 points, breaking Bird's franchise record of 53. The crowd roared. McHale was all smiles. Bird walked over, half joking, half serious, and told him, "You should have gone for 60. Most players would leave it there, a record passed from one teammate to another. But Bird wasn't most players. He knew McHale's 56 was a masterpiece, but he also knew that mark wouldn't stand for long. Exactly 1 week later, the 12th of March, 1985, in New Orleans against the Atlanta Hawks, Bird stepped onto the court like a man with a mission. From the opening tip, it was clear. He was hunting 60. Fadeaways from the corner, step backs at the elbow, deep threes with defenders draped over him. It didn't matter. Bird was in one of those rare zones where every shot felt preordained. By the second half, the Hawks' defense was in shambles, and something strange started happening. Atlanta's bench began rooting for him. They laughed, clapped, and even stood to cheer after some of his most ridiculous makes. The guy was just that good. Hawks forward Cliff Levingston later said, "At some point, you had to appreciate it even if you were losing." Bird finished with 60 points, reclaiming his franchise scoring record in front of a crowd that included not just Boston fans, but also opposing players turned spectators. It was pure dominance, wrapped in showmanship. Was it revenge on Kent Benson? In part. Was it also a playful jab at McHale? Absolutely. But more than anything, it was proof of who Larry Bird was. A man who could carry a grudge for a decade, bide his time, and then deliver payback with a performance so brilliant even his opponents couldn't help but cheer. It's 1987. The Chicago Bulls are still finding their identity, but they've already got a young superstar in Michael Jordan, a third-year guard whose combination of athleticism, skill, and charisma is electrifying the league. Before the game even began, Jordan had spoken about Larry Bird in a 1984 interview.
Larry used to be a very talented basketball player. He still is, and whenever I was about his height, he used to wear me out in the backyard. And I guess from that determination just to beat him, I guess that made me work hard. And, you know, he's just an outstanding basketball player at his height.
That early rivalry and inspiration fueled a young Michael Jordan, who was still finding his identity in the league. And on this night in 1987 at Boston Garden, that challenge would become very real. On this night in Boston Garden, Bulls coach Doug Collins decides to test him in a different way, giving him the defensive assignment of guarding Larry Bird. It doesn't take long for Bird to show why this was a bad idea. On the first few possessions, he treats the young Jordan like just another obstacle, methodically picking his spots, using his size and footwork to create space, and drilling his patented fadeaways. Jordan's quickness is useless against Bird's slower but perfectly timed moves. A jab step, a shoulder fake, a high-release bucket. Another trip down, a spin to the middle bucket. Jordan is one of the league's best athletes, but Bird's precision is making him look human. Collins decides to adjust. He sends in a bigger body, 6'9" forward Ben Poquette, to try and match Bird's size. But for Bird, this wasn't just a substitution. It was an insult. Later, he would famously explain his reaction. As far as playing, I didn't care who guarded me. I just didn't want a white guy guarding me. It's disrespectful to my game. From that moment on, the game took on a different energy. Bird wasn't just scoring anymore, he was making a point. Against Poquette, he backed down into the post, hit turnarounds, and drained mid-range jumpers over outstretched arms. When Poquette gave him space, Bird stepped into smooth, confident jumpers. When the defense overcommitted, he pivoted, faked, and still got the shot he wanted. And whenever Jordan switched back onto him, Bird made sure to punish him too. Post-ups, pump fakes, and high-arcing daggers right over the young star's head. Jordan later admitted, Larry had that killer instinct. If you challenged him, he was going to make you pay. By the end of the night, Bird had 41 points, along with rebounds and assists that kept Boston in control from start to finish. He had scored on both defenders at will. Each basket a reminder to Collins and the Bulls of what the rest of the league already knew. You don't disrespect Larry Legend and expect to get away with it. The Bulls walked out of the Garden with more than just another loss. They walked out with a lesson. In Bird's world, matchups weren't just X's and O's. They were about pride. And when you gave him a reason to take it personally, you weren't just facing a great player, you were facing a man on a mission. The beauty of Bird's revenge wasn't in loud celebrations or trash talk. Though he was more than capable of delivering those, it was in the way he turned the court into a stage, letting his game do the talking, until there was nothing left to say. For Larry Bird, revenge was never about rage. It wasn't chest pounding or shouting in your face. It was quiet, calculated, and devastating. He carried every slight, every smirk, every throwaway line like a bookmark in his mind. And when the right page came, he turned it with purpose. A fractured cheekbone against the Pacers? He came back and buried them. Dražen Petrović lighting up Boston? He shut him down and owned the rematch. Bill Laimbeer's cheap shot, 42 points in a glare that said it all. Kevin McHale breaking his scoring record. A week later, Bird took it back with 60, while the Hawks bench stood and applauded. A coaching switch that felt like disrespect. 41 on Poquette and Jordan for good measure. In the NBA's golden age, respect wasn't handed out, it was taken. And if you tried to take it from Bird, he'd take it back twice as hard, leaving you with the loss, the lesson, and the memory. So here's the question. In today's game, who still plays with that kind of fire? That kind of long memory? The kind that turns disrespect into dominance? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. If you like this video, don't forget to press the subscribe button and ring the bell to not miss the latest videos from Amazing Hoops. This action also motivates us to try harder. Have a nice day.